What is up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Files channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So I'm carefully following a lot of the comments and a lot of the sentiment lately surrounding, Destin and Paris's and Ryan McCaffrey and a lot of folk who are talking about Xbox's business. And I want to be able to get a better position on what it is that they conclude. Now, you know what's interesting, ladies and gentlemen, is for those of us who are actually following this from a business perspective, they're not really far off from what many of us think, but I think it's a big conversation that at the end of the day, it's going to require what I think is a lot of context to be able to bring to light what everybody actually believes. So today, Destin had a stream and he had some of the folk at the Iron Lords podcast. He had Oh No, It's Alex. He had all of these folk, and we're talking about the business right now in terms of Xbox and PlayStation. So when he went back on his own show, he actually said something that to me I thought was very interesting. Let's listen to it because it took me a while to go back and find it again after the live stream, but I did hear him say that during the live stream. And I thought you guys, may be interested in hearing this based on the videos I've made in the past few days.
Was one of the first people who left a super chat. Hopefully he's still here. He says Xbox is way ahead of its times. MAU is what's going to matter in the future. 500 million is huge. Console sales don't equal profit. Yeah, so I think this sort of goes towards the idea that I think that Xbox should get out of the console business. That's not what I think. My concern is the business people at Microsoft will get out of the console business. And
so very simply, his take on this is that the business folk at Microsoft will get out of the console business. So this is very interesting because now I think getting a clearer picture that it's not necessarily that he wants Microsoft to get out of the console business, but seeing that right now, because the console sales are not necessarily, hitting as much as PlayStation's console sales, the business people at Microsoft may look and say we're leaving the console business. That's the hardware business with regard to consoles. I have an objection to this based on some business analysis, but I'll go on and listen to this whole, super chat and how he responds to it. And then I'm going to basically talk about, what I think we probably need to take a very good look at.
And that's what's worrying because they are seeing 500 million monthly active users. And if you're talking about a
those fake ads really
3 million install base of console users and over that of Xbox Game Pass users, I do worry about their strategy by 2030 and getting out of it. Do I want them to? No. But think about the money people at Microsoft, right? They're just looking at line. Does line go up? No. Well, how long do we invest millions and millions into this particular avenue?
That's a very good point. So now no one in Microsoft has confirmed or has leaned towards saying, well, we're going to get out of the hardware business. In fact, if we actually want to take a very close look at the way, Xbox execs have responded to hardware or them positioning themselves about hardware and so on and so forth, we can actually start out with Satya Nadella's comments about the Windows Phone. Now, this may not seem relevant. However, we know that the Windows Phone was, in a sense, in a very tough spot because there were new technologies coming in. Somehow they were not seeing the benefits immediately and all of the above. But we remember that Satya Nadella actually made some comments, about the Windows Phone and giving it up. And they actually said that it was a mistake. So here, this is Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella admits that giving up the Windows Phone and mobile was a mistake. Interesting. This is because they were probably not seeing the profits show up. However, in the console side, to think that this sentiment is not going to run into the console side or bleed into it, saying that all they need is to basically strike gold once or maybe just half the time, and they're able to position themselves even stronger than they already are. To me, Destin, I don't think that is, in my opinion anyways, a sound way to look at the money people in Microsoft and the way they're looking at it. Simply because technology is evolving and consistently moving and shifting. This is the one thing that you can count on. Because of these shifts in technology, there's always room to be able to catch some kind of wind in the market. Even though right now, maybe many people may not see it, or even Microsoft may not necessarily be able to see that way forward, I strongly believe that they understand exactly where their hardware is positioned in all of this. Another thing we also have to look back at too is where Sony stands on currently where Xbox actually is. You see, when these documents were leaked from Insomniac, what we saw was basically PlayStation admitting that its own pillars, based on specific things, that is, PlayStation, Xbox's ability to basically deliver content, pretty much from, basically console, PC, and also subscription, had put, PlayStation behind. This is the, quote that I usually come to on Paul Tass's article here on Forbes, where he says perhaps the most interesting part of the second half was where Sony, says that its current pillars are dated and behind the competition. Now, if you looked at the leaked documents, which I'm not going to show you, you'll see that basically the leaked documents were saying something about Sony's concerns. Basically, they said Sony states concerns over Microsoft being able to leapfrog them with the Activision acquisition based on what it will bring to something like Game Pass, which Sony views as a massive threat to PlayStation Plus. It also knows that Microsoft will put Activision games on Game Pass day and date, including something like Call of Duty, at least by 2027, making them much more attractive than a $70 PlayStation purpose. This 2027 window is 2024. This is back when everybody was still basically, talking about the new acquisition at the time, December 19, 2023. So PlayStation was actually saying, man, in about a few years, they're going to do this, when in reality, the few years was basically now. Now, where does a console come into all of this? Well, a console comes in as a vehicle to continue to drive users into Xbox's ecosystem. So if they even ever mature or outgrow the console and go to PC, they'll still find themselves in Xbox's ecosystem one way or the other. This is a very interesting way to actually take a look at the whole picture. And I think at the end of the day, if the business people in Microsoft are not considering these, then they will shut down the console business. But if they're considering these things and looking how their own competitor is reacting to these things, then there is no reason for them to come back with any kinds of regret as to why they will go ahead and shut down the console business. There's only a few console makers. There are literally only 3 of them. There's Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox. Why would Xbox want to leave the business when it provides them an avenue and a vehicle to bring people into the ecosystem that's making Sony worried and concerned? Why would you do that? Because at the end of the day, the console market is a subsidiary market anyways. When PlayStation brings out its PlayStation 5 Pro, it's going to sell it at a loss before it eventually makes profit. This is basically the console proposition. It's a subsidized business. We're going to sell this hardware cheaper for you so that we can eventually make money later down the road and keep you in our ecosystem. And that's exactly what the console does, except now Xbox's own ecosystem is much bigger than just the console and what it offers. It is now an inclusion of the console. It's an inclusion of their Game Pass subscription. It's an inclusion of every Windows PC that is out there to be able to get Game Pass on PC. They've basically expanded their user base faster than Sony could ever dream of. I mean, do you know how many PCs are out there? And Microsoft literally has a store with games and a subscription service. PlayStation has 60 million on the PS5 side, and Microsoft has access to hundreds of millions. It's like the whole thing was flipped upside its head. You see, back in the PS4 days, PlayStation was comfortable with over 100 million PS4s. There was no problem. They were basically sitting on the top as the top dogs. But now, in today's day and age, in today's market, Xbox has now somewhat looked and said, let's flip this whole thing upside down. And now we're the ones with access to more gamers. This is basically what I think PlayStation's biggest concern is, and the money people at Xbox are definitely looking at this. All that just to answer one question, and I think that's something that, business analytics helps us to do. Let's listen to, more of this, because this is just one question that really now positions Destiny's statement in better light. So it's not him that thinks that, he wants them to continue, which is fine. I mean, to be honest, I want everybody to come to PC, which is weird that I'm the one making this video. I want for all of you to be PC gamers. If you, by the time you guys want to, switch out consoles, holler at the Video Game Fight School channel. I'll show you guys the goods on how to basically match or beat that console in the PC market, how to build one without any problems. You got, components that have warranty. If you break it, send it back in. Bro, I got you covered, okay? But let's finish this comment here.
Two super chats. We're going to read Maxwell really quick. I'm going to put two separate super chats. I truly believe that the end goal for Xbox is to put Game Pass on PlayStation. We talked about that with the Iron Lord guys. That's the reason why they took day one games off of their Game Pass level tier, so that Sony agrees to put that tier on their consoles since they don't like day one. Once Sony agrees to put that Game Pass tier on PlayStation consoles, then Xbox slowly but surely quits hardware.
No. Why are gamers doing this? You spent a super chat to come up with that conclusion when already we're seeing that there is already concern within the PlayStation camp that this is a big problem. Even with those leaks, and don't tell me that people at Microsoft did not see those leaks. I mean, I'm not saying they did. I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but they'd be silly not to actually be like, people, like, what the heck is this? Like, what? They saw those statements. They saw those analytics and analysis. And they were like, yo, we're pressing hard. Because there were rumors that actually Xbox tried to put Game Pass on PlayStation, but PlayStation refused it. So if PlayStation goes ahead and tries to accept Game Pass on there, then, it basically, puts them in a weaker position. They're not going to do it. And even right now, Xbox has no need to put Game Pass on PlayStation, seeing that they've basically converted a TV to Game Pass. Imagine this. PlayStation is trying to maybe go ahead and, figure out how to make these $200 million games. They've reached their money's end. They don't have any money to put these kinds of games out there for anybody. And then somebody is on their Samsung TV and they're looking around going, I played all those exclusives. And Xbox has some really nice exclusives out there. And they say to themselves, yo, I can just stream this for a small fee on my TV. So not only do they have to go spend, $0 on a console to get into the Xbox ecosystem, they can just from their TV subscribe directly to Game Pass. This is where the leapfrog language comes in this particular article. It's why PlayStation's analysts, they're very smart people. I know someone's going to be in the comment section telling me nonsense. PlayStation's analysts are brilliant people. It was a leapfrog more than anything else because you don't have to worry about the console anymore. You just can hop over it and go straight into the ecosystem. You're still dialed into the ecosystem. And I strongly believe that this is the one thing a lot of people are maybe refusing to acknowledge in this conversation. Or maybe they just are not paying attention to it because they're fixated on the box. They're like, oh, Xbox needs to just give up hardware. They're not going to give up hardware. They won't. They have no reason to give up hardware. If they wanted to give up hardware, why are they looking for a Steam, or why are there rumors about a Steam app on Xbox if they wanted to give up hardware? If anything, they want to expand hardware, which I'm going to talk about in a separate video later on. Thanks so much for watching the video. Appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.